All right, what's up, guys? VV back with another video. And in today's video, guys, you see it on the screen. Let me move my head so y'all can see the full title here. We got OP07 Boa Hancock Control. That's right, guys. We got a control deck we're going to be checking out today from OP07. So it's going to be a little bit of a spoiler for us in the West. A little bit of a spoiler, not really too much. And I will say this: I have done a video in the past showing I was showcasing some of the new cards that Blue is getting in OP07, not just this leader. So I showed off how one card, one set, one package made out of all blue cards for 7 Warlords of the Sea is almost completely interchangeable between Boa Hancock, Doflamingo, and Blue Green Zoro and Sanji. So if you have not checked out that video, I recommend checking it out if you're a blue player. And I have to say, I think you're in good hands going forward. I think Blue is getting some pretty solid cards to, how do you say, just to, to do better in the future. So good news for Blue players. You are getting a pretty decent leader here in Boa Hancock, and even some older leaders like Doflamingo from, I believe it was OP01, Mono Blue Dofi. He's getting some pretty decent tools to work with to take that deck to the next level in OP07. So you know what you're getting into, guys. It's going to be the standard layout I've been doing where we check out some deck lists from the East. We'll do 5 games on the sim today because, man, when I was making this list, guys, and making this video, I was like, man, this leader is fun. This is a strong leader, guys. Good stuff. And then on top of that, or at the end, we'll finish off with reviewing the deck that I was running and do some final thoughts and wrap it up from there. So you know what you're getting into. Let's dive into this, guys. We got a lot to talk about, a lot of different decks to look at from the East, and a lot of games to go over on the sim. So to start this deep dive off, guys, because that's what this video is ultimately is a deep dive into Boa Hancock from OP07. We got to read the leader, and then we can go from there. So 5,000 power, 5 life, mono blue leader, very standard stats for a monocolored leader. But check out this effect, guys. Your turn, once per turn, you may activate this when a character leaves play from one of your abilities, or effects, I think is the technical term. If you have 5 or less cards in hand, draw a card. So notice what's going on there. All of a sudden, in this deck, as long as you keep your hand size low enough, cards like 3,000 Worlds or Red Rock or Gravity Blade Raging Tiger read what they normally read, and they draw a card, which is incredible, right? Like that part is incredible. So really, really good stuff there, and that's going to come into play a lot in the games we see today on the sim. So let me run over this list real quick. This is a 7-1 list that got first place at a store preliminary 32-player tournament over in the East. We'll run through the list real quick, and then we'll talk about it. So 4 Gecko Moria, 4 Doflamingo, the blocker, 4 Kaya, 4 Kaido, 2 Charlotte Pudding, the 2K counter, 4 Pudding, the one that messes up their hand, 4 Crocodile, this is a new 2K counter, 4 Jinbei, 4 Sengoku, 4 Trafalgar Law, 4 Boa Hancock. I'll go through all of those once I'm done with this, guys, so you guys know what they do because they are all from OP07. 4 Red Rock, and 4 Gravity Blade Raging Tiger. Very tight, very clean list. Very, very big fan of this list as well. Notice we're running 14 2K counters. What's the best way to get cards out of our hand to stay at 5 or less cards in hand? Just counter out of attacks. Well, that's a good thing, right? That is a good thing in every single respect with this deck. Countering out of attacks keeps my life high. Countering out of attacks keeps my hand size low. Countering out of attacks also fills up my trash for later recursion from cards like Gecko Moria here. And comboing out of attacks, just, I don't know how else to say it, it makes them extend, right? It's causing them to extend more and more and more so we can attack another characters and control the board that way as well. It's just a really good thing. It also allows us to play around cards like this. Because typically speaking, a player will not play Pudding if you have 5 cards in hand. I think most players would not even play Pudding if you have 6 cards in hand. Because, yes, you will lose 1 card as far as card advantage goes, but it almost feels like it's not worth it. I typically don't play Charlotte Pudding on my opponent unless they have 7 or more cards in hand. Like, yes, you can play it when they have 2 cards in hand if you want to give them 3 cards. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. But it's not recommended, right? And that's my logic there. The lower cards you have in hand, the better, because you're playing around your opponent's discard effects and all that stuff. It is just a really good thing. Now, let me go over these new cards real quick for the newer players. This is a 4-cost, 5,000 power 2K counter card called Crocodile. It is basically a 7 Warlords of the Sea type character that is a 2K counter. The on-play effect is not great, but it's not bad either. On play, pay 1. So when you play this out, you have to pay 1. So it really ends up being a 5 cost, or a cost of 5 altogether. Excuse me. But you'll return up to up to one 2-cost or lower character to the owner's hand. Excuse me. Now, you can use that for your own characters like Sengoku, right? But you can also use on your opponent's characters if you need to. It's a decent utility effect, but I don't think you should use it very often, only if a very special situation arises where it has high value. Next up, I'll talk about the other 2K counter for 7 Warlords of the Sea. We got Trafalgar Law, 4-cost, 4,000 power 2K counter, another 2K counter. Activate main, you may return this character to its owner's hand. And then if your opponent has 6 or more cards in their hand, they place 1 card from their hand on the bottom of their deck. So you see what's going on there, a nice way to keep their hand in check. This is a solid 2K counter. But again, from what I noticed in playing this deck, I'm typically just using this as a 2K counter. That's just how it plays out, but hey, it's nice to have that added utility. Next up is Sengoku. This is a very, very important card that came out in OP07. It is a top 5 searcher for 7 Warlords of the Sea. That seems weird, right? Because this is a Navy card. Even though it says Army, this is a Navy card. It's very weird that it does a top 5 search for 7 Warlords of the Sea. But still, it is what it is. We got to deal with it. And this is a very strong card for what we're doing. Because most of the cards in this deck are 7 Warlords of the Sea. Some are not, like Pudding is obviously not, Kaya is not, but Doflamingo is, right? This is a 7 Warlord of the Sea. Gecko Moria is, but Kaido is not. But still, everything else pretty much is outside of the events. Next up is Jinbei. This card is straight gas, guys. This card is straight gas for any blue deck moving forward. It's a 4-cost, 5,000 power, 1K counter character, so already decent stat line. Nothing great, but nothing horrible. But this on play, guys, play up to 1 cost 4 or lower 7 Warlords of the Sea type character other than Jinbei from your hand. That's where this deck starts to do incredible things. There's a nice little combo I'm going to tell you about right now that goes perfectly with your leader. If you have a 2K counter in the trash like Crocodile or Trafalgar Law, let's just say you have those in the trash because you countered out earlier in the game. Well, check this out. If you have a Jinbei and a Gecko Moria in hand, you can play out the Jinbei that plays out the Gecko Moria, which allows you to get a 2K counter out of your trash and put it back into your hand. Think about what that does for a second. You didn't lose any counter power in your hand. You actually kept 2,000 power and counter in your hand. You then established 2 bodies on the board, which means you got 2 cards out of your hand, getting you closer to your leader's effect, but you didn't go completely out of cards in hand. You still got a 2K counter. Do you see how, hopefully that made sense. I know it's a little bit clumsy, but that is so strong, guys. And that's only possible through an effect like what Jinbei does to get that kind of value. That is a very, very high value play. Okay, the last card we'll talk about in the list before moving on to the next one is the 6-cost, 8,000 power, the new Boa Hancock from OP07. This card is a juggernaut. It is an absolute beast. 6-cost, 8,000 power is on par with a vanilla card. Like there is no actual downside to that stat line outside of it not having a 1K counter. But the on-play effect more than makes up for that. What it does is up to one of your opponent's characters other than Monkey D. Luffy cannot attack until the end of their next turn. So, other than Luffy, this thing can shut down any attack in the game from any character. Then, place up to 1 cost 1 or less character on the bottom of its owner's deck. You can choose your own card, like Sengoku, you know, if you had a Sengoku down, or one of your opponent's 1-cost searchers, like Nami, soon Spandam, right, you know, with Rob Lucci. Whatever 1-cost searchers on the board, you'll be able to bottom deck it with Boa Hancock's effect, which will potentially turn on your leader's effect to draw a card. So just absolutely incredible. And this list is running 4 of the Kaidos that draw 4. I actually like the one that bounces, like you saw in the thumbnail, guys. I really like that card because it draws a card anyway in this deck. It's the same size body, and it can bounce up to 2 characters back to the owner's hand, giving me more board control. But this card is still very good as well. I think this will largely be a preference thing, which 10-cost character you go with. Okay, so that was the first list we're going to look at. Next one we're going to look at is another 7-in-1 list. That was the Sword preliminary one. This one was in a 2-on-2 tournament, but it was at a 62-player tournament. And check this list out, guys. It's actually very, very similar. We're not going to go over every single card like we did in the last one. It's running 4 Mihawk, 4 Kaya, 4 Crocodile. It's not running the Trafalgar Law, but it's running 12 2K counters. I actually like 14 better, to be honest. But in the place of that, this is running, actually, it's almost like this is running 16 2K counters because it's running Gum Gum Rain. This kind of works as a 2K counter, and it turns one of your cards that has no counter into a 1K counter. You know what I mean? If you think about it like that. Or maybe cards like this that might be dead in hand for certain matchups like Red Rock. It can turn those cards into counters, which is very powerful. It also lowers your hand size for Boa Hancock's effect. It does a lot for the deck. And this one's running Edward Weevil. The last list was not running Edward Weevil. It was actually running instead of running Gecko Moria, the card that draws a card from your trash, a 7 Whirlers of the Sea 4 cost or lower character from your trash. This one plays out and just draws a card. And it's bigger. But it does not have a counter. That's like the trade-off. But I think both of them are very good. I think in my list I run both of them, and we'll talk more about that as we get to my list. But this one is also running 4 Gravity Blade Raging Tigers and only 3 Red Rocks. The last list was running 4 and 4 of each. It's running the Sengokus. It's running the Doflamingos. This is just great for setup, and if you have to go first, it's very good. And honestly, guys, this deck goes very well first or second. Because first, you can go Sengoku into Doflamingo, and that is a nice way to start your game off, right? But if you're going second, turn 1, you could still technically do Sengoku, but turn 2, going Jinbei into a Edward Weevil, even into a Draco Mihawk. I understand this is a 2K counter, but who cares? If you're going to generate value from it in that way, why not, right? Why would you not do that? Good stuff there. All right, that's about it for this list. This does have Charlotte Pudding as well. Guys, this card is just busted. I'm not trying to complain about it. When I say busted, I'm just being hyperbolic. I'm exaggerating. But understand that this card is extremely, extremely good. Because worst case scenario, at the end of the day, it's a 1K counter. And other than that, if you're going against like an Enel who's going to have like 9 or 10 cards in hand, okay, bye-bye. There goes all their cards, right? And they get 5 random cards. It's so strong. And then everything else is pretty much the same. All right, now one more list we're going to look at is the most recent deck list. This was, I'm recording this video on May 8th. So this happened 5 days ago over in the East. And check this list out, guys. It is all over the place. We're going to go through each card individually. Hang on one second. But it is all over the place. And I think something like this is even possible because of how powerful some of these blue cards are that we got. Like some of these you'll see the cards that are 4-ups in this deck really are incredibly powerful cards. There's not many. It's like Doflamingo, Mihawk, Duval, 2K counter, and then like a bunch of random removal. But let me run through the list real quick. Okay. Let's count up the 2K counters, and we'll go over them as we look at them. This is a new promo 2K counter coming out in sometime around OP07. I don't know when. It is a 1-cost, 1,000 power, who cares, 2K counter. But listen to this on play. If you have 3 or less cards in your hand, return up to one of your opponent's characters with the cost of 3 or less to its owner's hand. It's cute, right? But I don't think we need to play this. I'm going to be honest. I don't think this is necessary. It's just cute, and that's about it. Because if you're down to 3 cards in hand, bouncing a 3 or less is probably not going to make or break your game. Who knows? Maybe against like a mono green deck with like Jewelry Bonnie coming out OP07. Excuse me, an OP07. Maybe this is really good. If it had 4 instead of 3, I think it'd be good. If it said if you have 4 or less cards in your hand, then you can bounce a 4 or less to the other's hand, then I think this card would be incredible, and even increase the cost to 2 at that point. That'd be fine. But as is, I'm not a huge fan of it. Not saying it's bad. Just saying it's not as practical as it might sound. But this is a 1-of in the deck. Then you got this. Now this is not a 2K counter. Then you have this other promo Luffy. This card is currently available, I believe. This is a 4-cost, 5,000 power, 1K counter character. With on play, you may discard 2 cards from your hand. Okay, wink, wink. That's really good for our leader, right? That's a good thing. And then your opponent chooses a character they own and places it at the bottom of their deck. That's pretty good, right? Like that is a pretty solid card, guys. I will say. And especially as like a 2-of, I think that's kind of perfect for what it's doing. Then you have another promo 2K counter coming out in Sanji. Again, sometime around OP07. I don't know the exact dates on this. But this is a 3-cost, 4,000 power 2K counter. It's a Germa Kingdom Vinsmoke family type, not even Straw Hat Crew. But activate main. You may place this card in your trash, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, then place them at the top or bottom of your deck in your preferred order. So this is almost like a miniature version of Doflamingo. But it's like a 2K counter version that goes away once you use it. And then, like I said, it's a 2K counter for the rest of the game if you need it, like, if you have one in your hand. Not bad, but again, I think this list here is all over the place, and maybe like it's trying to do too much. Like maybe all of those two, the one Nami and the 2 Sanjis, maybe that should just go up to 4 Kaya, right? And if you don't have those cards, I think you'll be fine if you just go 4 Kaya. But one card I do think is nice is this one. I think this is a card for anyone trying to build the perfect, Boa Hancock deck. You need to start thinking about this card. I think it's very, very strong, especially for what she's trying to do. This can bounce any character back, okay? Now, your opponent gets to choose, but think about it. Say you're playing against Gecko, or not Gecko, Moria. Oh, what's his name? NL. If you're playing against NL, and they have no cards on the board, so then they plop down like a Katakuri. Say it's like on their turn 8 or something, or their 8 dawn turn, rather. Okay, cool. And if they have no other cards on the board, and you play this and trash 2 cards, well, they have to choose which character they're going to return. If there's only one character, guess what's going back? Against purple decks in the future, by the way, like say you remove all the cards on like a purple-black king, you know, the new leader from OP08. Sorry, guys, a little bit of spoilers. But there's a new leader coming out from OP08 with purple-black or king from purple-black, however you say that properly. And, guys, if they have no cards on the board, and they play out their 10 cost 12k, the new 10 cost Kaido Lin card, and you drop this on them, they're probably just going to scoop, because this will just bounce it back to their hand, and now they just completely wasted their turn. Just incredible. Okay, now this deck is running 1 Soga King. This is a 7 cost 6k with a 1k counter. On play, bounce a 6 or less, and draw 2, trash 2. Not bad, but I don't know. I'm not seeing why you would run this. It's running 1 Borsalino. It's like this deck was just running like a few cards of every card they like from blue. I like the 2 Kaidos, the two Kaido pairs here. Other than that, for Duval, it's running the 2 Puddings. That makes sense. Duval is a miniature version of Don Quixote, Doflamingo, the 3 cost 4k. This is a top 3 searcher that you can arrange in any order. Not searcher, but arrange in any order. Now, this card I do think is interesting in Boa Hancock, especially if you're running a version that has nothing but ways to counter out of your hand, like just go down to like 0 cards in hand, or 2 or less cards in hand. Into your turn, draw 2 cards. Like this card I think is interesting. The 2 cards I think that are most interesting from this list so far are this 4 cost Luffy promo and this 6 cost Inazuma promo. Or not promo, excuse me. This is from EB01. Those I think are very interesting in Boa, and they might actually have a place in there. It's running 4 Crocodile, nice 2K counter already talked about, 3 Jinbei. I think 4 would probably be better, especially if they could focus up more on the 7 Warlords of the Sea stuff. 1 Trafalgar Law, just 1 random 2K counter Trafalgar Law. It's running 2 Boa Hancock, 3 Gum Gum Rain, 3,000 Worlds, 3 Red Rocks, and 2 Gravity Blade Raging Tigers. Like I said, guys, this deck is all over the place, but hey, it got first place at a flagship. So either A, the pilot is absolutely incredible, B, the area he's in is horrible, which I doubt is the case. I'm not trying to say anything like that, guys. Or C, you know, some combination of the two, and like this guy just pulled a quick one on his locals. Because when I see decks that are this all over the place, you have to ask yourself, how is this list even consistent, right? Like, how is this maintaining consistency? But whatever the case is, very cool. There's a lot of cards I agree with in here, just not in the combinations we're seeing them. Like, I don't think we need Duval in a deck like this. I don't think we need Soga King or Borsalino. And for the 2K counter stuff, I think you can tighten this up and turn this into other cards like just 4 Kayas. Or actually just 4 Trafalgar Laws. Now, one thing I will say is, who knows, maybe this is like a newer player to One Piece who just scrapped together as many cards as he could from like friends and stuff. And maybe he's a really good player from another TCG. Who knows? If you guys have any more ideas on this or know what's going on behind this list, y'all tell me. Very interesting. I love seeing the creativity. Big fan. But some cards I think we can just tighten up by moving this there and that there and so on. Like, for example, like, why even run an Usopp? Like, in my personal opinion, why even run like an Usopp that can bounce a 6 or less when I can just run another Red Rock that costs the exact same and I can get anything out of the way with it? Or another 3,000 Worlds, which is, you know, it hits 1 cost less, but still it's 2 costs less as well in the actual cost. So, you know. Actually, excuse me, this is a 7 cost character. I'm actually tripping, guys. So, Red Rock is 1 cost less and hits anything in the game, and 3,000 Worlds is 3 costs less and only hits 1 cost less for the target. And yes, I understand, this is a counter. Yes, I understand, this is a character. It can draw 2, trash 2. I get all that, but still, we're going for consistency, right? We're trying to get consistency. But either way, really cool stuff here. Very interesting. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's dive into the games, guys. Like I said, we got 5 games lined up on the sim. We got a lot of cool stuff lined up for you here. I think so. Some pretty cool games. Let me adjust my camera. There we go. Okay. Let me go ahead and hit play. Volume is off. Let's go 2x speed here. We're already on 2x speed. Very good. And the first matchup here is against Black Yellow Luffy. And this is going to be, you know, I tried to get some pretty decent matchups. Let me see what we got while this game's playing out. We got Black Yellow Luffy, Black Green Perona, Bonney, Rebecca, and Zoro. So I got some pretty decent matchups lined up for us today. Zoro's a little bit, you know, not really a thing anymore, at least from what I've seen, but it is still something to check out. So against Black Yellow Luffy, I think this deck is I think this deck is very, very well catered to deal with Black Yellow Luffy. Number one, we're running Pudding. And I will show you guys the list that I'm running at the end of the video. It's very similar to the first two lists that we looked at. Not the exact same, but very similar. But, okay, if you're going to swing into me, that's actually a good thing. I need to counter out to keep my hand size at 5 or less anyway. 2K, 1K, we're good. Okay, now, the reason that Boa Hancock and any blue deck, any deck that's running blue is going to be good against Black Yellow Luffy because you're bottom decking their characters. So, in other words, if they play out a black, the Sabo, the black Sabo card, the 5-cost Sabo, okay, well, I'll just hit it with the Gravity Blade Raging Tiger, right, and one of your other guys, like this yellow Sabo or your yellow Ace or your yellow Luffy, because those are all 5-cost cards, and Gravity Blade Raging Tiger hits everything 6 costs and lower, well, two cards 6 costs and lower. So, again, he's helping me by letting me just keep my hand size low. Now, watch this, guys. Your Sabo can't attack. I'm going to bottom deck your Flampy, and I'm going to draw a card. I play out Sengoku, I do a top 5 search, and imagine, guys, I did not even get Pudding yet. Look how many cards are in my opponent's hand. I think he has 9 or 10 cards in hand. If I had gotten Pudding, this game would have been even worse for my opponent. It would have been it wouldn't even have been close. It's already, I'm already in full control of this game, but I think you guys know what I'm saying. Okay, so he's going to swing for 7. I'm going to have to take this one. I don't have enough counter power in hand. Then he's going to swing 8. I don't have enough counter power in hand for that either. And now it's back to my turn. Now is my time to start using these Gravity Blade Raging Tigers, I think, because I cannot let him have these big characters on the board. The first thing I want to do though, so I can't remember. Yeah, I think I just Gravity Blade. Looking back, I think I should have swung. No, actually, okay. I just changed my mind like 3 times in a row. I'm sorry, guys. If I had attacked into the Ace with my Boa Hancock, number one, he could try to take it out with his leader this turn. But number 2, it goes to his trash. I don't want him having that card in his trash, right? I don't want him having access to that card, the Ace in his trash. Same thing with Sabo. I want him to have no Sabos and no Aces in his trash. That is the primary targets for my Gravity Blade Raging Tigers. Okay, he swings 10 at life. Excuse me, I can't do anything about that. But what I can do is I'm going to play out another Boa Hancock here. I'm going to tap his guy down. And, I could send my Sengoku back to the bottom of my life, of my deck, but that won't draw me cards. There's no point. Right here, I do a Doflamingo search. I still don't find any Puddings. I must have gone through those earlier. Those are just nowhere to be found. Because instead of playing out Doflamingo there, if I had a Pudding right there, it would have been devastating. He would have lost all of his setup from the turns prior, and I just think it'd been a really good thing, at least for me. Okay, so I have to take one of the. Actually, I don't have to take one of these hits. I can counter out of them. So I counter out of that one. I use the blocker up for the other attack, and now he's probably going to pass back. He's got 2 legitimate targets on the board, so this is a perfect turn for Gravity Blade Raging Tiger. Get those out of here. I draw a card for my leader effect because I removed a card with 5 less cards in hand. Play out another blocker. Arrange my top 5 cards. Next turn, I'm ready to swing. I'm not trying to annoy this guy, but next turn, now it's time to swing because I can just go all 5s across the board with 2 9s to back it up, with my Boa Hancocks and whatever. But he finally uses his leader effect to, he uses his 2K counters from hand to take his last 2 life cards because he has to start using his leader effect or he's just dead, right? Well, I've bottom decked, think about it, I've bottom decked 2 Sabos, 1 yellow, 1 black, an Ace, and I think another Ace. So I think I got rid of 2 Aces, a Sabo, and a yellow Sabo, all at the bottom of his deck where he's not going to get access to those probably for the rest of the game. So right here he's using his Luffy's effect because he played that out to get a 2K counter on his leader. But then he didn't have another card. He did not even have another card to put into his life. Wow. So he swings in. I use my blocker, and I'm just going to go 18 to face. And I'm daring him now to somehow counter out of this. The crazy part is he almost did, right? The crazy part is he actually almost countered out of that. But I put 18. He had no blocker because I bottom decked them. So then I loaded up 18K on my, or 10K on my 8K body and swung 18 into a 9K. Got every card out of his hand. It still was not enough for him to survive. So, it happens. That is why Boa Hancock has a very good matchup into black-yellow Luffy. Because, you're going to be able to... how do you say it? You're going to be able to bottom deck all of their important stuff, which is very, very important in that matchup. Okay, next up we got Perona. I think Perona is a pretty good... I think this is actually going to be a top-tier deck in OP07. We're starting to see it pop up everywhere on the ladder, or excuse me, on the sim, and even in tournaments in the East. Right here, I have no reason to be passive against Perona. This deck can draw cards for days, guys. This deck has Otama, which is a 2K counter searcher. It has Momonosuke, which can do a top 5 search for Land of Wano. And it has You Can Be My Samurai to draw cards. It has Sabo. There's no way to stop this deck from drawing what it wants. So I think it is important to actually keep strong pressure on the opponent. Right there, he taps down my Doflamingo, goes 5 at face, then KOs it with the Ryuma. I counter out because I want to keep my hand size low. And right here, I'm going to play out an Edward Weevil to get some cards on the board and draw a card. So right here, he taps it. And if he swings into this, I'm going to counter. Well, it depends. Everything depends on what he does. 6 into 6 here, I'm like, maybe I just counter out of this to keep my hand size low and force in another attack onto him. Perfect. So that one I'll take. Then he can play out his Sabo this turn for 5. I couldn't risk him having the, the X-Drake. Like, I could have countered out of that if I wanted to, right? With the 0-cost card. That would have been a little bit crazy, but I could have. But there was no reason. So right there, get rid of those 2 cards, swing 5 at life, and your turn. Gravity Blade Raging Tiger is incredible. If you have not play-tested Blue in a while, you guys should try it with this new card. It is so good, guys. Okay, so right here, I do need to get a body on the board. But I also want to get rid of that. I want to get rid of that Sabo as soon as I can. That is an 8-cost, 9,000 power Sabo that can KO cards. That can KO a 5-cost and a 3-cost. Now, my opponent, this is an unfortunate ending to the game. My opponent just decided he was done. I don't know if he disconnected or what, but he just decided I'm out of here. I don't know why. Now, he does only have a 2K counter in hand and 2 1Ks. Maybe that had something to do with it. But this next turn right here, let me just tell you what my next turn would have been, and y'all can go from there, because he had 1 attack left. He could have swung with his leader for 6. I would have 2K countered out. But this next turn right here, I will be at 10 Dawn, and I was going to swing, probably put 3, actually, excuse me, I would put 4 onto my Boa Hancock to swing 11 into a 9 or 12 into a 9, and then I'm going to red rock the other Sabo. That's just what my turn's going to be, so I can keep getting further and further into the game. And then when he plays a big character next turn, like say he plays out Zoro or something, then I'm going to hit it with my with the Boa Hancock and start getting aggressive into life, because that's a big attacker there. What's his name? Zoro is a big attacker into life. So I don't know. Maybe it would have been smarter to actually save the red rock for Zoro. It's hard to say. But that guy just left out. Very unfortunate, because that game was just getting started, to be honest with you guys. I still had 5 left. I still had 5 life. He had 2 life. So, oh well. It is what it is. But I still wanted to include that game because I thought it was very interesting. So next up, and to kind of show, like, I do think Boa Hancock can compete against the decks that are running black. Because remember, bottom decking cards gets around Gecko Moria, gets around a lot of effects. And who knows, maybe that's why he left. Who knows? Okay. So right here, we're going against Boa Bonney. This is a very strong green deck, but I think a lot of people are starting to not play this over black-green Perona if they want to run green, which I hate to see that. I still think that there's a chance for Boa Bonney to go into the next level. I think Boa Bonney still has a lot to offer, and people have not figured out the correct package to run with her. We'll have to see how things unfold. Okay, so right here, I'm going to swing 6. He's going to tap down my Doflamingo. It is what it is. I'm not worried about it at all. If they attack into Doflamingo, he works as a blocker. They got greedy and took that attack, so I hit them with a pudding, and I think they had 7 or 8 cards in hand, so now they just lost that. They just lost that advantage. Plays out Cavendish, but I've got really horrible news for this poor guy, right? I've got really horrible news. I have a Gravity Blade Raging Tiger. That card in this deck is a pay 7, remove 2 6-cost or lowers from the board, and draw a card. It's hard to beat that, guys. It is hard to beat that. So I do smash into the Boa Bonney there. I'm not afraid for him to swing into my blocker. I don't care. Like, please do. Okay, swing into pudding. By all means, go ahead. So right here, we're going to see a decent little interaction, I think, with Jinbei. Jinbei lets me play out the Edward Weevil, which let me draw a card. Then I play out the 3-cost blocker to fill up my board. He has no Dawn active to where he can tap down my guys this turn. And then I'm swing 7. The reason my Doflamingo did not become active at the start of my turn was because of the new 5-cost Boa Bonney on my opponent's side of the board. That can just lock you down. Okay, swinging in for 8. It's like, okay, I can either counter out of this one or counter out of 2 6Ks. That was what my logic was. Yep, And there we go. That's exactly what happened. Ended up being a 6K and a 5K attack, easier to swing out or to get out of. And I knew he was going to play out Eustace Kid or Zoro or something like that. But I've got an answer to him. We're going to bounce those 2 cards back he just played with my 10 cost Kaido, and I'm going to draw a card from it. And now I'm just going to start beating into face here. Okay, so he uses. I should have swung with the 6K attacker first. I totally forgot about the leader effect there. That was just a blunder. It is what it is. I should have absolutely swung with the 6K first to get more cards out of hand or more cards out of life. But no big deal. Not too big of a deal. I got a Perfume Femur there. That's going to come in handy later, trust me. Swings 5 at my guy. I'll counter out of that. Swings 6 into 7, or 6 into 5. I 2K counter out. And now he plays out the Eustace Kid again. Okay, well, I'm going to go 12 into him just to see what he gives me, right? And he can tap down my 6K guy. That's fine. Now, right here, it's like, oh, okay, so you're going to give it to me for that. So I've got some choices I need to make here. I need to set up to win next turn. That's what I'm trying to do. So swing 7 into life. Let's see what he gives me. And he's already used the tap down effect. Right here. I was going to say, what am I doing? I thought I was about to hit Perfume Femur. I'm like, wait a minute, this is not the game I thought it was. So swing 8 into life. And then I'm going to swing 6 into life, I think, with my Doflamingo. Let me see. And then play out another Doflamingo. Oh, I swing 6 into the Jory Bonney. Okay, very good. Then I get rid of that Dofi for this new one. I get a 7, the 7 cost Gravity Blade Raging Tiger off the top of my deck. And I'm like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good right now. Like, this is a pretty good situation to be in. Okay, swings 8 and 6. All right, so I use the counter there. Let's see what he does. Swing set. It looks like he's going to swing 7. Okay, I'm going to... Do I use my blocker here? I think, yeah, I do. So I do use my blocker here. He uses the Jory Bonney to keep my 10 cost tap down. Seems good, guys. Seems really good. Okay, he taps down my leader. That's fine. I knew that. And then use that effect. So now, next turn, I am set up to win the game. He has no cards left in his life. He has to drop an 8 cost Eustace Kid here if he wants to try to make it one more turn. 2 blockers is not going to do it, guys, because I'm running Perfume Femur. Now I can make a, let me pause because he taps down my guy, and that's going to go through. It's game over, GG. For those who are not aware what Perfume Femur does, I will show you at the end of the video, but it is a 2 cost event that gives a 7 Warlords of the Sea character or leader, plus 2,000 power, and they're unblockable for the turn. So, guys, that is, that is excellent. Very, very nice. Okay, so that was versus Bonney. Now we got one versus Rebecca, and we'll finish with one against Zoro. That one's kind of interesting. Okay, let me make sure it all lined up. Yep, okay, we're still good. Okay, oh yeah, 2x speed. Excuse me. Speed, 2x, we're good to go. So, Rebecca. I think that the deck that I'm playing basically just annihilates Rebecca. Because I'm going to bottom deck his cards, so cards like Kairos and Sabo, I just don't care about. They don't mean anything to me. And I'm just going to keep playing out cards and cards and cards and draw cards along the way while countering out of every single attack they throw my way. Whatever attack they send my way, I'm just going to counter out of it because I need to keep my hand size low. And then once I start dropping the big boys like Kaido, that's probably going to be a wrap. Okay, so he plays out Bartolomeo. I get that, but I also don't. Now, notice, I'm playing against a Rebecca. I'm swinging with my blockers. There is no reason for me to use my blockers as actual blockers until later in the game. So it's like, okay, I'm just going to play out these cards and fill up the board. Play out Jinbei, which draws me, or which plays out Edward Weevil, which draws me into another Edward Weevil. And I'm filling out the board in a nice way. And how is he supposed to attack into my characters right here? He can't attack with the leader. So what is he going to do? Load up everything on his Rebecca? You know, and the answer is no. But he plays out 6 cost Sakazuki. That card I like. And I've said it before, if Sakazuki's going to work in a deck, Rebecca's probably the deck. I'm not saying you can't play him in Gecko, or I'm not saying you can't play him in these other decks. By the way, that card's so good. I just shut down his attack for the turn, bottom decked his Rebecca so I can draw a card, and it's not going to his trash, which is important, so it's not contributing to his Luffy stand-up condition and cards like King Kong Gun. But anyway, what I was saying was Sakazuki is so nice in Rebecca because you draw a lot of cards with the leader's effect inherently. So trashing a card in Rebecca is completely fine, right? In fact, you could put cards in your trash that you want to get back later with your 4-cost Rebecca or your Gecko Moria. It's just really nice. So I go ahead and bottom deck his 6-cost guy because I don't want to waste a Gravity Blade Raging Tiger on it. excuse me, I want to get 2 targets with that minimum. And I don't think Rebecca runs many 10-cost cards. I think it might run like a Kuzan or something on occasion, but I still have 1 red rock in hand to deal with that if I need it. So right here, he had a really great play where he was able to get rid of all my stuff and fill out the board completely with a bunch of blockers, bunch of threats. That was a good play. But this is where it's time to just, you know, I think I attack first and then play out Kaido. I can't remember. I might actually play out the Gravity Blade Raging Tiger. I can't remember. But playing out Kaido is also very strong here because I can just bounce cards out of the way. Okay, I'm doing a lot of math in my head. I'm deep in the tank this game here, guys. Deep in the tank. Swing 5 gives me a blocker. Thank you very much. It's time to drop the big boy. I'm looking at what's in his trash real quick just to make sure, like, and I bounced his Kairos, and that's it. That was on purpose. I don't want him to have the Hina back, because I don't want him to be able to reduce the cost of my Kaido by 4 with that effect. And I bounced back the Kairos just to get that threat off the board. I'm not worried about him KOing a 1 or less when I have a 10 cost on the board, because then he could probably do what he needed to anyway. So I slowed him down a little tiny bit there. I didn't want to give him Rebecca back. I didn't want to give him either of the Rebeccas back, for that matter. And like I said, Hina, I definitely don't want him to give that. I don't want to give him that back. So he swings in. I probably should have 2K countered out of that. I don't know. It's hard to say. I didn't want to waste a 2K counter because it's like my last removal in hand. And hear me out. Or my last, it's, you know, it was my last 2K counter in hand. I thought this turn he was going to play Luffy and then go Gum Gum King Kong Gun to swing 13 into my Kaido twice. So I was like very happy to take that attack and hopefully get a 1K or 2K counter there. Because now, if he plays out Luffy and does +6 for the turn, that's only 13. So even if he attacks into my Kaido twice, I can defend out of it. So right here, I do go ahead and give him a 1K counter because I'm hoping to draw something to counter out of it next turn. And he plays out another Kairos. Okay, so now I've got 2 2K counters in my hand. I'm safe from any double attack shenanigans from Luffy. You know, to my character, I'm saying, to my character. So I'm going to swing 12, swing 5. I'm going to bottom deck both of his Kairos. They're out of my way now. And now it's his turn. Technically speaking, I should have swung for 8 with my leader. I just messed up there. No big deal. Okay, we're still on path to win this game. Okay, and I think this turn, I believe this turn he does drop Luffy. I think he does drop Luffy this turn. And that card, like I said, now when he used 1 Dawn there, I was no longer concerned because he couldn't even combo the way he wanted to. And I've got bad news for him, man. I'm just going, and I drew a Kaido. So that turn was going to be a Gravity Blade Raging Tiger turn where I bounced 2 cards off. Now it's going to be a Gravity Blade Raging Tiger, but like in this way, where it's like establish 12K body in the process. This card in this deck is obnoxiously good, guys. Now, I understand some people might think like, yeah, but how good is it in the red-purple law? To be honest, I didn't run into any on the ladder, so I have no idea. But I couldn't imagine it being that bad because you're just bottom decking their cards. You start with 5 life. You're trying to counter out aggressively. But one thing I want to add to the deck, and I'll talk about it later, is I want to add, I'm not running I don't think I'm running the 0 cost Gum Gum Reigns. Or if I am, I think I'm only running 2. Maybe I need to go up to 3 or 4. Because against decks like Red Purple Law, that would be very good to get this card out of my way. You know, if I have a dead 10 cost in hand. Okay, I do have them in my deck. I can see it in my hand right now. Excuse me. But it would help me get these cards out of the way. Okay, so right here, it's like I'm going to swing 7. I don't think there's a way for him to get out of this. I don't know what he was thinking there. He 2K countered out of that attack, but I guess you're not getting out of a 12K and a 20K. So whatever the case, GG to this guy. That was a fun game. Okay, let me pause it, and we got 1 more left. Oops, let me get the glasses on. Make sure I don't click on the wrong game. Okay, this one is against Zoro. I think this deck is a very, very strong counter to Zoro. I will say that right now. Any kind of red deck that is trying to like blitz the board with a bunch of 1 cost, smaller characters, I am not so scared of that because I run a lot of counter power and I run cards like that right there, Boa Hancock, and that's going to be my go-to choice there. And then I'm going to pass the turn back to him. Now, my opponent makes a small mistake here, unfortunately. He does recover from it very well, but you can tell it's an absolute mistake. He's playing with a card I'd never seen before in, I've seen it, but I've never seen someone play it. It's, Dogra and Magra. He did not do the math correctly on that. He should have been able to swing for 5 this turn with both of them. Actually, if he had not played that, he could have done it in a different way where he swung for like, you know, what, 6 and 6 if he had not played that card. Or 6 and 5 and then play out the Nami. But I'm going to counter out of it. So just imagine if he had done it, it actually would have been way worse for him because then I could attack into his board here and I was countering out of it in either way. So while this guy might think like, oh, I just made a huge play mistake, he did technically make a play mistake, but it actually only helped him get closer to winning this game because I was just going to eat that card up and counter out of it anyway and get my hand size down even lower, and it was going to benefit me from using my removal. You know what I mean? So hopefully you guys see what I'm saying there. No matter how he did that, him swinging last turn with Sanji would have been a mistake. Now, swinging this turn, I'm going to have to counter out. I'm going to have to use a lot of 1K counters this game. That's why I had no problem getting rid of the Jinbei or even Gecko Moria if I need to. Because I'm going to need to do a lot of 1K counters. Okay, so he played out Buggy. Now, hear me out. This poor guy, he was not having a good day. He did 3 Buggy searches this game and whiffed every single one of them. I'm not kidding when I say that. He whiffed every single Buggy search. It was wild, guys. You'll see. I hate to like spoil the game, but I don't think that's too big of a spoiler. Okay, so he's got this card down. I'm going to swing 5 into 3. I'm going to swing 6 into 3. Those are going away. You'd have to be out of your mind to defend those when I still have other attackers. Play out my Boa Hancock. Your one character cannot attack. Bottom deck the other 1 cost. I draw a card from it. It is just so strong, guys. Like I said, against against like red decks, I am not as worried because now I don't have to attack their face either, right? I can just keep bottom decking their cards, and I didn't even get a Gravity Blade Raging Tiger this game. Notice that, like Gravity Blade Raging Tiger just makes it that much easier when I have a board like this because I could just attack into everything that's tapped and then just bottom deck all the other cards. So really good stuff here. Okay, this guy's trying to do a little bit of math. He's trying to figure out how do I win this game. Good question. I have no idea, dude, because you're in a lot of trouble. Use my 1K counter there to get out of the 5. He swings 7 into 6. I'm not letting him have that if I can help it. He still has 2 Dawn left to work with and 1 more attack. Actually, excuse me, that was another. I think that was another Buggy turn where he whiffed. I'm going to swing 2 into 2. Now, you might be thinking like, man, maybe he should counter out of it. No, I don't think so because this is a free attack for me that has no value otherwise. So if he counters out of that, that's just him giving me a card for free. So now I'm actually forced to attack into his face. You know, that's why it's good to also not to counter out. He uses a guard point there pretty aggressively. I would not have guard pointed there when I'm at 4 or 5 life. There's just no point. Swing 6, swing 8. Whoops, I just hit something. Hopefully everything's all right. Swing 6, swing 8. Play out another Boa Hancock to stop the Brook attack and bottom deck his other Buggy. This guy's in a horrible position, right? I mean, there's really no other way to say it. He plays out Nami and gets a 5-cost Luffy from it. And the 5-cost Luffy, what do you do with it in this situation? Like, do you start trying to get board control back? Because I'm at 4 life and I have 5 cards in hand. He doesn't know what's in my hand, but I have 5 cards in hand, 4 cards in life, and almost an entirely full board where I'm threatening lethal next turn. So, like, if I'm this... Okay, he chose to go 7 into 6. You know, not the worst idea there because I do want to be able to counter out of an attack on Boa. So I think I do let this card go. But I would have probably swung into the Sengoku and then everything else into the Edward Weevil just to get cards off the board. But who knows? I'm not saying it was the right call or not. I'm just saying that's what I would have probably done just to ensure bodies off the board. So right here, now I have 2 free 8K attacks into Luffy. 8 into 6 is a awful number to deal with because, you know, that's going to cost a guard point, a rad beam, or a 2K and a 1K. Nothing my opponent wants to give me, right? Especially at this stage in the game when I have 4 more attacks on the board potentially. Okay, 8 to 6. Let's see what he gives me. He gives me the character. He must be out of counters. That's what's going through my head is he must be out of counters right now because otherwise why would you give me that? So right here I have a chance to fill up the board, play out Jinbei, which can play out a Gecko Moria, give me another 2K counter back. Then I can swing 3 on my swing for 5 on my Sengoku by putting 3 Dawn on him. Get another card out of hand, swing for 5 on my leader, and then I can replace my Sengoku with a 3-cost blocker. This game is, oh man, and then that's what's coming. Those are the cards coming on the top of my life. This game's, you know, in full lockdown mode. It feels good at this point, right? It feels really good. 2K in hand, 2 1Ks. He has 3 little bodies. I have a blocker and 3 life. There's almost no way for him to succeed at this point, right? And I do think that, like, I know some people might be thinking, okay, he got really unlucky with his buggy searches. He did. He kind of messed up on turn 2 by playing out a double attacker on a turn that was not good for it. He did. All those things that people might be thinking right now are true, but I don't think it saves him much for this game. I think it just helps this game be a little closer than what it was, because it's kind of a blowout, right? This game seemed like kind of a blowout because of those 2 small mistakes. All right. Let's see what he does here. He is deep in the tanks. He's like, what do I do? How do you attack into 2 8K bodies with a bunch of 1-cost and 2-cost characters? You have to invest so much. So there's the 3rd buggy, whiffs it, doesn't find anything. And who knows? Maybe he's just sending things back because he didn't get, like, maybe he could have gotten a Diablo Jambe or something. Who knows? Okay, so looks like he's going to swing 9 into an 8 here, if I remember correctly. Unblockable. No big deal because I've got a 2K counter. Again, it's just, he should have at least swung 10. I think he should have swung 10 into it, but I would have gotten out of that too. There's no way out of it. So now he's got some attacks left with his leader and one of his brooks. Swing 5 into my leader, give him a 1K. Swing 6 into life, give him a blocker. GG. That's pretty much going to be game. I take this one, actually, so I'll save the blocker for later. I'm going to swing 9 into life. He has 2 cards in hand, so there's no way out of it. Swing 11 at life, GG, because he can only have 2, 4, 6 to get him to 11. Good game. Okay. Well, that was a fun one. That was some good stuff there. Let me go ahead and bring up the deck list now, and we'll talk about that. Move my face. There we go. So this is the list I was running. This is what I was running. It has plenty of room for improvement. I'm not saying this is a finalized version of the deck list or anything like that. But I do like the way it's performing. I will say that right now. I am running 2 of the Gum Gum Rains, 2 Red Rocks. I'd like to go up to 3. Maybe go down to 1 Perfume Femur, where it's just like that extra card in my hand. If I need it, it can just win me a game potentially, and it's searchable by Sengoku. So if I see it on the search, I know to prioritize it. That's one option. I like the puddings, and I wish I could go up to 3 of these, but I don't know what to move around yet. And I also would like to go up 2K counters. I only have 4, 8, 12, and like I was saying earlier, this deck wants to counter like crazy. It wants to counter. But we'll see. 12 2K counters is not bad, especially when you have the 2 Gum Gum Rains. So it's like you have 14 2K counters that can convert potentially dead cards in hand into counter power later. The Red Rocks, or excuse me, the Gravity Blade Raging Tigers are absolutely insane. I think this is a for sure 4 of. I don't think that's even negotiable unless something crazy changes in the format. Jinbei is nice into the Gecko Moria. Maybe the Weevils need to go because I don't need to draw as many cards if I'm running the Jinbei Gecko Moria Recycle combo with all these 2K counters. Something to think about because you can also get back blockers with Gecko Moria. There's a lot of options there. You cannot get back Boa Hancock, but that's okay. She's kind of the boss of the 7 Warlords of the Sea package. If you want to run the 10-cost Kaido here, you can. That's up to you. I think this card is good. But I think this is better for what we're trying to do. Yes, I think you can easily get them down to 4 life, or excuse me, down to 3 life so that you can always draw the 4 cards. That part's easy. But honestly, I mean, hopefully y'all saw in the games I was playing, like being able to just like bop 2 cards out of the way, like, oh, get out of here, bud. You know, that was massive. That was absolutely massive. Like maybe there's an argument to go down like 1 Edward Weevil and maybe go down 1 Perfume Femur, like I was saying, and go up 2 of these other Kaidos. Who knows? You know, there is a lot of wiggle room in this deck. I mean, like we saw, guys. Let me bring back up some of these, some cards to consider. Oh, Inazuma is a card we definitely need to consider because it's a 6-cost 7K and a 1K counter, but it is not searchable by any of our 7 Warlords of the Sea stuff. But it's something to definitely to think about. And then also this Luffy. Those are 2 cards. Remember, we really need to think about, and I think they have a lot of potential in the deck. I also don't think we should rule out Gravity Blade Raging Tiger. I don't know. This card is really strong. That's all I can say. This card is really, really strong. On turn 4, though, I think now we're trying to play something like Jinbei or Edward Weevil. This deck's not running the Edward Weevil. Let me bring back up the Boa Hancock list. Right there. Yeah, the list. This was the list I think I liked the most. This first place 7-in-1 store preliminary list. The only thing I wasn't like a huge fan of is I actually think these 2 Charlotte Puddings probably should have been 2 of the 0-cost 3K, the 0-cost 3K Gum Gum Rain counters, the event counter. I also think you can go down maybe 1 Red Rock. I don't think you need 3. But everything else, like as you can see, guys. Oh, and another thing is instead of running the 4 Kayas, I was running 4 of the 4-cost searchable, what's his name, Mihawk. But Kaya's good too. I can understand playing Kaya. I do understand that, but I'd rather have more synergy with the list where I can get the card back later with Gecko Moria and things like that. Like and it's searchable by Sengoku if you need it. I don't really like the Kaya over the other 7 Warlords of the Sea guy, but I understand the utility of being able to do this effect. Now, Charlotte Pudding is interesting. So for those who don't know what this card does, this is a card that came out in ST12, the Zoro and Sanji, the green-blue Zoro and Sanji deck. Excuse me. And this is a 2-cost card. It's a 2K. It's a 2,000 power character, but that doesn't matter. It's a 2K counter, which does matter. But listen to this activate main. Return this character to the owner's hand. That's it. So in other words, you could play this out for 2, and then do a removal effect. And if you had, like, say you had like 7 cards in hand, you play this out for 2, play this for 7. That's 9 Dawn for the turn, and now you're down to 5 cards in hand where you can draw a card. And then before the turn ends, you can just return this back to your hand. So you see where, like, that card has a lot of synergy, but at the same time, you know, it's a 2K counter. It would almost have been better if you just countered out the turn prior with this effect to, you know, to get down to that, you know, the ability to draw a card from using the removal to begin with. I don't know. Y'all tell me what y'all think about that in the comment section below if you want to. I'm not totally sold on it. Let me look at this other 7-1 list too one more time. This one, see, this is running, now this is not running this is the one that wasn't running the Trafalgar Law, the 4-cost Trafalgar Law, and it is running the Kayas. That's the crazy part about Kaya. I guess it also does the same thing as what we just saw with Pudding, but instead of being like Pudding where you can return it back to your hand at the end of the turn, you just play out the Kaya to go down 1 card in hand for 1 cost, and then you draw 2 trash 2 to cycle through your cards, and you could potentially throw cards in your trash to get back with Gecko Moria. But this deck's not even running Gecko Moria, it's running the Edward Weevils. So very interesting, and there's a lot of ways we can manipulate and move this deck around. I do not think this list has been fully figured out yet. I think it's close. I think they're very close to something incredible here. I mean, obviously, guys, I'm not trying to be too critical. This list went 7-1. I'm not saying it's a bad list. Please do not misunderstand me. But I do think there's still some room for improvement. Like, in this list, maybe going down some of the Gum Reigns. Who knows? Something like that. And this one's running 4 of the draw 4 Kaidos. That is very, very interesting to me. And I think the other list was as well. This was the first list, or the list we were just looking at. Yeah, they're running the Kaidos, so they're big on the draw 4 Kaido. But that to me, it seems like you're playing around your leader's effect at that point. Whereas like with the 10-cost bounce 2 Kaido, I can just, especially for playing on curve, right? If I'm going second and they went first on their 9 Dawn turn, they're probably going to play something like a Eustace Kid or a Katakuri or Gecko Moria or something, you know, something along those lines. Well, if I could just bounce those cards back to life in Time Warp, I feel like, or not back to life, excuse me, back to hand, I think that's a little bit better than drawing 4. I don't know. You guys tell me. It really does depend. It really does depend in my personal opinion. Yeah, let's go back to the deck list I was looking at. Okay, so this is what I have. Like I said, this is where we're at. And who knows, spoiler warning, in OP08, there's going to be another card we have an option of using in the 10-cost spot called Edward Newgate. And he's a 10-cost 12K. On play, if your leader type... Oh, just kidding. This is White River Pirates only. Never mind. Disregard. Because that would have been crazy. Listen to what this card does, guys. If your leader type includes White River Pirates, and if you have 2 or less life cards, until the end of your opponent's next turn, all of your opponent's characters cannot attack unless they first discard 2 cards from their hand. That would have been so disgusting. But actually, for what we're doing, I don't know, guys. I am just... For me, I understand drawing 4 cards feels real good. It feels real nice because you're probably going to draw into a bunch of counters like we were talking about because we're building high in 2K counters. I totally understand that. But bouncing 2 characters, I'm still more interested in doing board control. Because if, like, say they have a Katakuri down, right? Theoretically, if they have a Katakuri down and we play out the 10-cost Kaido that draws 4. Well, when they attack next turn, 2 of my cards are gone, right? 2 of my cards are going to go away to blocking out of that 8K attack, right? Because and that's if I drew 2K counters, which you probably will, but still, that's 2 cards out of your hand are gone. So now, how are you going to generate the other 2? Because their leader attack's going to make you lose 1, and then what else? And then if they had another character down. Whereas like Kaido here is just like, all right, get that Katakuri out of here. Go ahead and give me another life later in the game if you want to by playing it out. But they're not going to want to do that because of the character you just played. I don't know. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. Who knows? But yeah, that's about it, guys. That's about all I have for you for what's her name? For Boa Hancock. Excuse me. If you guys know about a card that I missed or something like that, please do not hesitate to put it down in the comment section below, because there are a lot of 7 Warlord of the Sea cards out there. You know, this is a card we should probably consider for the future. Let me do a few more before I get off here. You know, 9-cost Doflamingo, card to consider. We've got other Weevil cards as well. And this card, I think, is kind of slept on. I think it's better than a lot of people give it credit. Or, you know, I think a lot of people don't play this card because it just bounces to hand. And nowadays, you can just bottom deck cards, right? With, you know, Red Rocks and Gravity Blade Raging Tigers. But I do think this card is kind of decent to play on curve, especially in Blue, Green, Zoro, and Sanji. But I'll probably talk about that later, though. That's for another video. Okay, I'm done. I'm done, guys. I should have mentioned this too. Sorry, one more thing. This is another decent trigger card to put in the deck if you're trying to get you know, one extra, you know, to be able to attack the game from one more dimension with more triggers, right? Because there's actually quite a few decent triggers in this deck. Okay, now I'm done. Sovels. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. Which is a good card. But I'm done for real now. Big shout out to my patrons, to all the people who support me. You know, people who like, subscribe, share, comment, all that stuff, guys. I appreciate y'all so much. Every one of my viewers, I appreciate y'all. Big shout out to my patrons who are, you know, getting me closer and closer to making this dream a reality. And yeah, that's about it, guys. I don't have anything else to say. I'm just blabbering on at this point. Please do not forget to like and subscribe if you have not already. And until next time, guys, peace.